Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, my name is Olga Predushchenko. I'm a researcher in the cross field of education and educational psychology for about 25 years. My basic research interest emphasizes the effectiveness of the pedagogical activity of teaching professionals. Nowadays, I'm teaching English and Russian as foreign languages, and I am searching for the original and the most optimal variants to improve the work of a university teacher. So, I'm using different approaches, such as system activity approach and competency approach. I'm currently taking a position of an associate professor in Department of Foreign Languages in Zhejiang University in Jiangxi province in China. My academic and scientific career was developed in Russia. I represent the Scientific School of Nizhny Novgorod State Linguistic University, Moscow State Linguistic University, and Pushkin State Russian Language Institute. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee of the online international multidisciplinary conference Emerging India through Sustainable Development and Innovation in Atmanirbhar Bharat. I also thank Shri Jagdish Prasad Jamabarmal Tibra University for inviting me here and giving this wonderful opportunity to communicate with the researchers, scientists, and educators in India. My special thanks to Dr. Rupali Taru personally. It is a great honor for me to present the results of my latest research and practical activity performed in Zhejiang University in Jiangxi province in China. My special thanks to the colleagues who are present here now, online and offline, and I hope for fruitful cooperation in the future. The topic of my lecture today is educational strategy based on system activity approach. I'm going to present a theoretical part of my research based on analysis of literature and my previous experience in Russia. The practical part that includes a pedagogical experiment is now going on, and it is still going on, and I plan to finish it at the end of this year, 2021. So at this point, we have 5 basic questions about teaching. The first one is, who is teaching? Who are we? Whom are we teaching? What are we teaching? How are we teaching? And what for are we teaching? So let's start with the question, what are we teaching for? So the global goal is to improve competitive position of a country in the global world. In our case, let's talk about India. So educators are supposed to upgrade the academic reality in the world. So to achieve the goal, the global goal, educators should prioritize the education and its development. And to follow the strategy, education and science will lead the country to the prosperity and success, and to orient education to high quality. At this point, we are facing 4 basic contradictions. The first one deals with the social demand in high-class specialists and the students and graduates with medium results. Really, how can you raise a high-class specialist out of the students who shows average results? Number 2, teaching technologies that do not consider psychological process is the result of the lack of strategy that clarifies a teaching model based on psychological and pedagogical common factors and laws. The third contradiction deals with the requirement to organize manageable individual in-class activity of each student, and the lack of learning and teaching materials in academic theory and practice. Moreover, demand in psychologizing in teaching any academic course is in the total conflict with deficient usage of psychological knowledge in educational practice. So let's come to the next question. Who is teaching? Who is the educator? The answer is a university teacher. And this university teacher understands psychological in their nature processes of acquisition, interiorization, exteriorization, thought-provoking activity in each learner. Psychological images and psychological activity in learners' consciousness, their function, characteristics, structure, and content. So, a university teacher understands methods, forms, means, conditions to be used in educational process, and how the psychological image in learner's consciousness will support his practical activity. We are working in the educational reality, where academic knowledge is presented to the students in the traditional form of a lecture, practical lesson, seminar, tutorial, self-study. University teachers present academic knowledge to passive listeners with effectiveness below expected level. Proved productive effectiveness of a learner can be achieved if 85% of time is devoted to the speaking activity of a student. In reality, the students are speaking no more than 15% of overall time. Number 4, an academic goal of any lesson is supposed to organize manageable, individualized in-class activity of each student. Whom are we teaching? I will show some students' feedbacks about lessons to present a portrait of a student. So the students say that the teacher doesn't teach us. She just assigns homework and checks it in the next class. I'm afraid of being asked any question. That feeling makes me uncomfortable. I never catch what the lecturer says. I try to understand the content of the course, but it is impossible for me to focus on this subject. Time goes by, but I feel more and more disappointed. I prefer practical courses rather than theoretical. So, some more feedbacks. We are talking about one and the same question, and the teacher repeats the same answer. We are sitting like idiots, just listening to the teacher. We are passively accepting knowledge. Knowledge that I learn doesn't support my confidence. A teacher keeps talking on the podium without any interaction. The whole speech was not any academic communication, but a dramatic monologue. After the lecture, I have a strong impression that I have just visited a one-man show. The textbook reminds me of a jungle, and the teacher is the only person who knows the pathways and how to survive in this jungle. So, being a teacher from Russia, working in the university in China, I will tell you about some challenges for international teachers who start working in Asian countries. Here they are. Students are used to teacher-fronted styles of learning. Large classes leave no chance for a teacher to contact each student often. Types of exercises are close-ended, calling for specific answers. Gap fills with keys. Fluency accuracy balance is in favor of accuracy. So the next questions are: what And how are we teaching? Answers to these questions are directly related to the topic of my speech, educational strategy based on system activity approach. So now I'm going to present the theoretical statements of system activity approach and basic of the research that is being performed now in Zhejiang University in China. So the topic of my research is educational strategy based on system activity approach, experience of teaching English writing in China. The object of the research is educational process from the position of system activity approach. Subject of the research, teaching English writing from the position of system activity approach. The main goal of the research is, on the basis of the concept of system activity approach, to design an effective working model of the academic course English writing. Objectives of research. Number one, to clarify function, characteristics, structure, and content of teacher's activity, as well as methods and conditions of its organizations towards the quality of educational results of students. Number two, to elaborate a working model of educational activity, describe its function and characteristics, reveal its structure and content, as well as technologies, methods, ways, and forms. Improve in practice the effectiveness of the educational activity in accordance with this model. Number three, to elaborate an integrated complex academic program in English writing containing and combining three existing courses: English Writing 1, English Writing 2, and Practical English Writing. Number four, to elaborate two educational aids for a lecturer or a teacher, and the second one for students, in purpose to organize manageable, individualized, in-class activity of each student. So, the hypothesis of this research is a teacher or a lecturer within the educational process can make each student achieve high educational results according to standards if teaching is organized on the basis of system activity approach. To be more exact, if characteristics, structure, and content of teachers' activity are determined by the required educational results of students. If a teacher organizes theoretical educational research activity of a student with an investigated object aimed to production of new for a student knowledge, so-called subjective knowledge. If students interact with new knowledge, reproducing it in materialized objects, described as full, generalized, systemic. If students in their activity follow steps in changing types of pseudo-professional activity from cooperative with the teacher and other students to individualized, as well as from outlawed socialized to mental. If educational aids of teaching materials for a lecturer or a teacher and for students are elaborated in purpose to organize manageable, individualized in-class activity of each student. Theoretical and methodological background of our research are the following. Psychological activity theory. Action theory of acquisition of social experience about function of psychology to orient a subject and its activity and materialized reality. Social historical nature of humans' mentality. Content of processes of interiorization and exteriorization. So you know that these theories were elaborated by Lev Vygotsky, Leontiev, Galperin, Zoya Reshetova, and their colleagues. So number two, Theory of step-by-step formation of mental activity, elaborated by Piotr Galperin. And number three, statements of system activity approach about structure and content of activity as a structural substance, as well as investigation of an object by procedures of method of system analysis, and formation of action orientation matrix of a systemic type, elaborated by Zoya Reshetova, Olga Kolomiets, and their colleagues. So, methods of research. We start with theoretical methods, analysis of philosophical, psychological, pedagogical, andragogical, and methodical literature. Standard and normative documentation, analysis of educational results, modeling of educational activity. So, number two, empirical methods, lesson observation, expert revision, interview of students, and so on. And finally, the pedagogical experiment. So, today I have presented the theoretical part of this research. As for the pedagogical experiment, it is being now performed in Zhejiang University in China, and I hope to finish it up to the end of the year and to present the practical part next year in the conference here. Here you see the list of references to scientific articles that were used for this research. Thank you for your attention. Feedbacks, comments, questions, suggestions are welcome. You see my email here, and you can contact me anytime. Thank you very much again.